You are at Hoofs, right? At this
Yeah,
point, still, yes. At
just finished 2 classes today.
you must be tired.
I'm all right. You know me.
Yes, yeah, you have. He has a lot of energy. So, right. Just maybe before we start, Nick, um, this is a cultural class. We're doing popular culture, and it is an interdisciplinary class. So we do a bit of psychology and a bit of sociology and all of that. And we put all together in our search for answers and our investigation in the pop culture of Korea. We try to go in the depth of the culture as well, cultural theories, etc. And then also the fun part of the culture. So what we have today is we're looking at K-pop and the pop scene, actually the music scene of Korea. And that is why we've got you here to help us doing that. I just want to see if I can get you. Okay, I'm on the speaker view. I won't actually view there. So we record this as well for our purposes, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
right, Nick, maybe first, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. Can you just introduce yourself to us?
Well, that's gonna take a couple hours.
We
Well,
have a
first
lot of
of all,
hours.
so you're in a suit and tie right now. You know, you got that awesome background, and yeah, I'm sorry, I'm in a t-shirt. It's around that time, you know, during the semester when you start to dress down. I swear, my first couple classes, I was wearing a suit and tie too. I got tired of it. But no, Professor Reiners, you always look really good in a suit and tie, and you haven't changed at all.
So,
First of all, hi everyone. My name is Nicholas Duvernay. I've been a professor here in Korea for the past, well, let's see, 10 years now. I had a pretty interesting, I guess, unique background in life. Basically, I don't know if you guys could tell, but I'm half Korean, half American. Definitely can't tell by my name. It's Duvernay. It's French originally. I don't speak any French though. Um, but yeah, I'm originally from Michigan. I don't know if you guys know. It's not famous. It's only known for its Great Lakes, its beautiful scenery, the birds, the deer that'll sometimes run into your car. I mean, we got so many animals in Michigan. So yeah, I grew up in the countryside. Then let's see. I uh, I went to school both in the States and in Korea. I ended up graduating pretty early. Actually, not even graduation. I don't know if you guys know in Korean the Kamjeonggosi for Korea. So as soon as I graduated from elementary school, I took that because that might have been one of the options. And then I went to university at the age of 13. So I ended up teaching originally where actually Professor Reiners and I both originally taught um, when I was 23. I don't know. Well, I was pretty young. Most of my students were older than me, especially the ones that came back from Kunde. So yeah, it was interesting. But as far as music goes, I got into music from a pretty early age. I don't know if you guys could tell by all the stuff I have in back of me, but this isn't CG. But I got into guitar pretty early, and that was actually during the time when I was prepping for the university entrance exam. So yeah. Eventually, I got into band music and all that, and so I started to play in these various. You guys probably know the 대학교 동아리, right? Um, and actually it wasn't really band 동아리, it was more 술 동아리, but that's a little separate. But as we were doing it, one of the members of the group I was in, the drummer, he was originally from Thailand, and he asked me if I wanted to take an audition over in Seoul. At the time, I was over in Pohang. So I was like, oh, okay. So it's for this, 연예 기획사, right? So we go over to Cheongdam-dong, behind KFC, exit number 2, I remember. We take the audition and we pass. And I'm like, great, they're gonna make an idol band, right? And I was maybe like 18 or something. So we get the contract, and the contract is for 10 years. So, the 노예계약, right? Yeah, I would have just gotten out of it not that long ago, actually. So I was like, no, because I'd just been finishing my master's degree at that time, and I wanted to get into my PhD. So I figured that probably wasn't the way to go. So I ended up going with what we might call the indie band, so the independent bands, right? Of course, they're not really independent. They all have their own companies and such. And then I auditioned for one that was already kind of a big name, I guess, in Seoul at the time. And I passed and started to hang out with that band. Well, that continued and up until this day. So that's pretty much how my music career started, I guess. And then while I was doing that, I was taking my PhD courses over at Goryeo. And then, yeah, and then I started working at my previous university with Professor Reiners. And I had a lot of guitars in my office at the time. I pretty much just hung them all over here.
Wow.
This looks familiar. Yeah. So anyway, oh yeah, I'll take some questions though, because I've been in the Korean band scene for the past, over a dozen years. So if you guys have anything specific, I can definitely answer.
Yeah, I remember your office was just opposite my office, and it was a guitar office. The whole place was full of guitars and all kinds of interesting things. I always tend to just pick in and see what's new. What did he do?
Well, I remember in your office, there weren't any guitars, but there was always really good music.
Yeah, I can't work without music. Yeah, that was a great time. Tell us, at 13, you went to university. That's quite something, right?
At the time, I was the youngest person to enter university. As a matter of fact, I started growing my hair out. So when I was like taking the proficiency exams, the 검정고시, and actually at the time I was doing it because you have the mission, right? That you don't want to lose what you've been studying. So I didn't cut my hair. Well, to be honest though, I didn't cut my hair just simply because I wanted to become a rocker. So by the time I entered university, I was already basically the height that I am right now, which is like 183. So here's this really tall, really super skinny person with really long hair. So everyone thought I was, not a dude. It's just when they see me from the back. But yeah, no, I fit in pretty well, thankfully, to the university culture at the time. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, and at this point, what band are you singing with?
At the moment, I am currently working with a band called 공이로비, which is it's a really old, I guess, well-known Korean band. You've probably most of the Koreans anyway in this room have heard of their songs because they've been around for over 20 years now. Yeah. But yeah, I am with them right now. I'm currently the singer as well as the songwriter, half songwriter, got another songwriter and also guitarist. My previous band was with members from a band called Eve, which was another kind of a older Korean rock, kind of a visual style of band. We did a lot of, personally with me anyway, we did a lot of American style rock, I guess you'd say, kind of a hard rock, kind of pop rock. You want to put any genres on that. Yeah, and then various other bands.
Great. What questions do you guys have? I've got a whole list of questions, but I want to give you the time.
It looks like someone has their hand up.
Yep. Who's got? Yep. There's a few hands. Let's start with Ingyu.
So I listened that you are actually from United States, so you're from Michigan, and then you kind of like moved to Korea. and then you were some sort of like you want to pursue career in the music. So what kind of thing that draw you to move to Korea? Like what is it? Is that because of the passion, your passion toward music, or is that because you like South Korea? Or I just want to know what reason you about attractiveness that drove to South Korea.
What drew me to South Korea? All right, you know what though, that's a really good question. I'll be honest with you. The main thing that drew me to South Korea was the fact that I came to Korea when I was 2 years old because my mother's Korean. So actually, I grew up starting from then, back and forth between Michigan. My dad's a professor, so he every summer and winter we would travel back and forth. And I grew up in Gyeongju actually, so I had a little bit of a Gyeongsangdo accent. Yeah, in Pamunna, like that. And honestly, like Korea is such a really, really cool country. Like you can't really count me as a foreigner in Korea, honestly. But I'm more of a, I don't know. I think I'm Korean. Actually, I do study. Well, so my major being linguistics, I study the kind of social aspects of language and such. And one of the things I noticed is when I speak in Korean, my inner culture sort of changes. I get that Han, I get that Chong, and I also, like sometimes I use the language strategically. Like, for example, I meet somebody who's Korean. Maybe I want to become friends with that person like that. I actually won't start in Korean. I'll start with English, if they could speak English, of course. And because English doesn't have, the gyeoksig, all that stuff, right? So after that point, and then we become friends, and Korean doesn't really matter. But I don't know, if for any reason, like I wanted to, I don't really do this because everyone's a friend. But if I wanted to, like, show like power, something like that, right? Then, I'd start speaking in Korean. 그렇게 하셨습니까? 아, 네네, like that, right? And then it would slowly get into my cultural system as well. So honestly, I love Korea and I love America equally. It's like saying, who do you like better, your mom or your dad? But yeah, food-wise, I eat everything except for honga. That's about it. Even I could even eat kebul and all that stuff, but honga, oh man, I tried it. It's just not for me.
Thank you. Inchik, Cho, can you ask your question?
Okay, nice to meet you. And you got all my dream guitars like ES335, White Balcon, PRS, and Gibson Les Paul Custom.
All right, you're a guitarist.
My favorite guitarist is also from Michigan, Detroit. His name is Mark Tremonti. Have you ever heard of him?
Mark Tremonti, like from Creed?
Creed and Ultra Bridge. Yes,
Ultra Bridge. Yeah, definitely. As a matter of fact, I was never, I used to, back when I was like a teenager, listen to Creed, and then there came a certain point where I was like, oh man, Creed's kind of old school, But Ultra Bridge, I think it's a singer in Ultra Bridge. He also plays
Miles
with
Kennedy.
Yeah, Miles Kennedy, right?
Yeah, with Slash.
I'm a big fan. Yeah, definitely.
So like, it's not about like Korean pop music stuff. It's more like American rock music stuff. But I was wondering, like, I'm trying to save money to get a PRS I'm considering PRS and Gibson Les Paul because my favorite guitarist has been Slash and Mark Tremonti all the time.
Okay.
So which one, if you could give me a recommendation, then which one would you recommend? Between Gibson Les Paul and PRS Mark Tremonti signature model?
All right, well, for those of you who aren't really into guitars in this room, this is going to sound like a bunch of nerd talk.
Right.
Because I could talk about this forever. Honestly, I first got my Gibson before I got the PRS. The PRS I actually got last year. Sound-wise, it really depends on what you're into, because Mark Tremonti, I know he's more for the PRS style,
like shreddy style kind of.
Yeah. And then Slash is more of the pentatonic blues scale
Bluesy,
kind of. You got to get a Gibson for that. Honestly, I have a feeling that eventually you're going to get both. I I expected to be living forever with a Fender guitar, but then later I ended up getting a Gibson and so on. So I know that if you're like me, or at least a little bit like me, you're gonna eventually get everything. The first thing you should probably get is the Gibson, because it's
Gibson.
it is the more well-known sound, PRS.
Yes, I know.
And then once you've played the Gibson, the PRS will really complement it, I think, with its own beautiful sound too.
Whenever I listen to PRS, all other models are not like my type, to be honest. Like 513, 509, custom 22, custom 24. But
Okay.
Mark Tremony model was, wow, this is a killer.
Oh, really? Is that the one that's like silver?
Silver, like they got plenty of other different colors. Like, but Mark Tremony uses black most of the time. So I was wondering, like, you're more experienced than I am, so I wanted your recommendation.
Well, you know what? If you want to go for quality though, at a certain price range, the PRS obviously gets really expensive, and so does the Gibson. But the more consistent one quality-wise actually is going to be the PRS if you're looking for quality at a certain price range. So even the lower end PRS guitars that aren't necessarily made in the United States still go through a very rigorous kind of testing process.
Yes.
And
the Korean one and the Indonesian one, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes. Like I heard that Gibson, compared to the price, like Gibson isn't that in good condition, like they're not in good quality.
I think what you would call that is it's a real mixed bag for the lower.
I see.
So unless you get like so here's how I started collecting guitars. Was the first guitar I ever bought with my own money. I was into like translation at the time, so I was translating books and stuff from Korean to English. And I spent 1 year translating a book, and the entire year just looking at photos of that guitar I'm eventually going to buy. But I ended up going with the higher end model. And so I ended up, having to wait a little bit more, but with the more expensive one. I would recommend to you, if you're really serious about getting into guitar, wait a little bit until you have enough money and funds, and then go for the higher end model, because in the end, that's the one that you're going to keep. If you go for lower end or something in the middle like that, you're eventually going to change to another one. The Mark Tremony model, I'm not entirely sure about, but PRS in general is very good quality. So if you want to go with a safe route, do that. Gibson, you're going to have to put a little bit more money into.
I see. Like
you guys
custom shop stuff.
need to give us some lessons on guitars as such.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I can talk for hours and hours about this.
That is basically the sort of Stradivarius of guitars, right?
Definitely. In any case, you know a lot about guitars. But if you have any questions, I'll give you my email at the end. Then we can.
Could you? Thank you so much.
Right.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, Eugene, you had a question.
First of all, thank you for being here for us. It's a pleasure for us, and thank you. And I'm just curious, if you had a choice to do music in the States, and if you did, why you chose to play in Korea instead?
All right, that's also a really good question. The United States is really awesome in that, culturally it's the salad bowl, I guess you call it, of many different musical styles. And so you can learn a lot. Now, on the other hand, actually becoming successful from the start in the United States is like, really, really difficult. I mean, for even the most accomplished musicians. I have so many childhood friends from Michigan who later on grew up to be actually, in my opinion, very accomplished musicians. They'll play at like the various, hippie arts festival and the various other, of course it's pre-corona, but festivals that we have in Michigan. Well, they're fantastic musicians, but nobody knows who they are. On the other hand, Korea is kind of a blue ocean when it comes to that stuff. Now, nowadays, the music industry has been hit quite hard by the pandemic. But I think musically, Korea is a really great place to lay your foundations, because you can really do any style of music and eventually get a following. And the same goes actually for even listening to music. So pre-pandemic, most groups, like really super famous groups, I'm talking like, you know, Green Day, Metallica, all those bands that you guys know at least the name of, Muse, they would never come to Michigan, but they always came to Korea because it happened to be one of the stops during their tours. So I was so fortunate to be able to see all those people while I was living here. So yeah, I mean, I hope that eventually the Korean music industry will get back to its band roots. That also has a really long history, basically even a politically motivated history as well. But yeah, that's pretty much why I'm not doing things in the States right now, in addition to the fact that I currently teach here as well.
Thank you. Maurice, your question?
Yeah, hi. So my question is, so you lived in the United States and in Korea. What do you see as the biggest difference in the music industry of these two countries?
All right, constant good questions. I think the biggest difference is that the United States is a little bit more, what should I say, there's a wide range of genres with which you can, you know, which you can enjoy, which are constantly coming out. You know, for example, even the ones that you'd think are really old genres that nobody no longer listens to, you'll turn on the radio and you'll still hear, you know, the same rock songs from the 80s and 90s. But Korea is more of a kind of a, you know, it hasn't been long since Korea has developed technologically and also as a country. So Korea is really fast paced. And one of the things that I realized, especially when it comes to music industry, is, and this isn't a bad thing, it's not a good thing, it's just kind of a thing, is Korea as a culture will follow trends that are being set. So if something is the next, you know, in Korean you call it 대세, right? The next trend, then that's what people will listen to. That's what people will watch. And that's the kind of person that people will be into, right? But then a few years later, it'll change. And so Korea is a constantly changing kind of environment, but at the same time, their roots are, of course, in pop music. And starting from the 90s was also in more dance-oriented music, which is why choreography and visual aspects are sometimes a little bit more important than the musical aspects. You know, being a 연예인, being a celebrity, is seen as more successful than simply being an artist or 예술인. So I would say that that's probably at the moment the biggest difference, and that has been going on for many, many years. But, you know, I think things will always change in the future.
Good. Zafirova?
Yes, I have two questions, if you don't mind. Firstly, is there any difficulties of being a K-pop star or K-pop singer? And my next question is, what kind of cultural differences are there about America and Korea, South Korea?
Okay, well, the first question, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily, I'm not going to call myself a K-pop star because I'm not dancing on stage for anybody. But as a, you know, as a musician in Korea, actually, could you repeat that first question? Because I just wanted to clarify that first part.
Yes. How difficult it is to be a K-pop singer?
Okay, I got you. By difficult, like there are many different factors. For example, musically, you know, you got to think, you do have to consider maybe trends in Korea. I know that my partners in my band do. And you also have to think about, you know, where your music is going, you know, what type of audience basically you have. Also in Korea, especially, you know, your image is incredibly important. And also kind of your, I guess you call it star power. So basically your, in Korean, we'd call that ki, right? So your entertaining power is also really important. You can be a really accomplished musician, but if you can't entertain in Korea, it's a little bit of a minus point. So we got a lot of competition here, definitely. So a lot of things to think about. As for, let's see, your second question was a little bit more general, I think, about what the difference between Korean and American culture. So was there any specific part of culture you were wanting to ask about?
Maybe people's behavior or attitude.
Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, it's really quite a bit different. Even when I look at my students who are native Koreans, who have been living abroad, whether it's in the United States or any other Western country, when they come back, they're changed people in many ways. You know, Korea is still a slightly conservative society, so I guess there are the things that come with that. Whereas it's kind of the opposite in the United States, and everything has they all have their different points. Of course, the main thing about Korea, and all of your Korean friends can probably tell you, is that Korea still has Jung and Han. So I think that's what really uniquely defines a Korean.
I'm so glad you talk about the Jung and Han. We had that in one of our sessions as the sort of foundations of Koreanness, if we have a word like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Solé, Ramazan?
Yes. So since you've been in the industry for a long time, have you faced any difficulties as a half American and half Korean artist?
Oh, as a half American, half Korean artist?
Yes, exactly, in the Korean industry.
In the Korean industry? Maybe the biggest in the Korean music industry would be my identity, or the identity that I would want to show others. In other words, actually used to be kind of a running joke in one of my previous bands that I would pretend I couldn't speak any Korean. And I would just be like, you know, like when you have to do the 멘트, right? So I'd be like, 한국말 잘 못해요, you know, like that, right? And I got really good at that. And then it came to a certain point where the fans of our band, of course, later on learned that I could speak really good Korean. So it became concept, basically. And then I was kind of figuring, well, you know what, this I kind of use this quite a bit. So what should I do next? And I guess identity-wise, I still need to figure out what part do I really want to be focusing on. In addition, being a professor here means that I have to really like have a kind of a split personality in a way. They're both stages, you know, whether you're in class or whether you're on the stage, they're both stages. You're talking to multiple people at the same time, but it's slightly different, right? So sometimes I would be like talking to after you know, during a performance, in between songs, I'd be talking to the audience, and naturally my professor part would come out. So I'd start teaching them things, and I was like, oh no, that's like Gonde, right? So, and then the opposite would happen, where the next morning after, you know, a really late performance, I would be in class, and you know, the first hour class, right? And I would still be in my rocker mode. You'd be like, oh, hey everyone, all right, you know, and you know, it's it was really difficult at first to kind of figure things out identity-wise. But actually, most recently, my partner in the band that I'm in, Kongirobi, he mentioned that, you know, in the end, we're all acting. So, you know, you just have to be a really good actor in order to kind of emphasize whatever part of you there is, because they're all your identity, right? So yeah, I guess that's about it. I haven't really met any other Korean Americans like myself yet in the music industry. But I don't know, who do we have? I mean, Daniel Henney is not a musician, so I can't really think of anyone else, but it'd be interesting to see in the future what other people, you know, up here in the industry who are similar to me.
Thank you. Viot, Ivana?
Yeah, thank you, Professor. Hello, thank you for being here with us. I just had a question because actually my dream job is to be an artist manager here in Korea. And I wanted to know if you maybe, since you've been working in Korea in a band, did you already see that? Or do you think it would be possible for a foreigner to work as an artist manager?
Well, I know for a fact that there are actually many managers and also people who work in managerial positions for artists who originally, for example, even started off as like the fan, as a fan of the artist. So later on, they became, in Korean, we call them 성덕, 성광 덕후, right? But they were really, they know the band really well, right? So, the best kind of person to be managing that band is or group is someone who knows everything about the group and at the same time can also, kind of 선을 지키다, knows where their connections end. So in other words, they can see the big picture when it comes to groups. So as long as you can see the big picture for the group and you understand what the strengths of the different groups are, then I think you can be a good manager.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, no problem.
Good. What other questions? I have a lot of questions. Oh, yeah. Inky, yeah, you still have a question?
Yeah, just thank you for being with us. And I just have a question that since you mentioned that in America, musical bands tend to be more competitive than Korea. And then maybe, well, so yeah, I kind of agree with that. But what about the other aspect of genre? Like if you look at the United States, we have like Billboard top 10 or 100 charts. So what about what they call Ed Sheeran or like maybe dance or electronic or maybe very famous in the United States like hip hop? So do you think if someone wanna be like hip hop musician or dance group musician like Ed Sheeran or Drake, like those kind of people, so which one do you think is more competitive, Korea or United States? Thank you.
That's not a good question. Honestly, in today's society, where our biggest platform is YouTube, I don't think the country matters that much. And genre also, there's always going to be competition in any style of genre. And so all the genres that you mentioned, a lot of competition. America, actually, to be honest, I had a few years ago, actually, taken a nationwide tour of the United States. Actually, that was with my father and my cousin. We're just like, I had just gotten a new guitar in the States and I wanted to kind of find some musical inspiration. So we were traveling to every single possible band related club that we could find in order to listen to some new music. And one thing I realized was, to be honest, most of the bands that are playing in these clubs throughout the United States on average aren't really like super accomplished musicians. They're mostly just friends out there, playing and like that. So not really competition, but the issue with the United States is that it's really, really spread out. So if you want to be, really big in a certain scene, for example, if you want to be big in the Seattle scene or the LA scene, you have to, number one, be living there full time. And number two, you have to have been constantly working day and night as a musician for many, many years. Most of the people who you see on TV, on YouTube, who are successful, or maybe some of them who, they suddenly became successful. They came out of nowhere and they became successful. They've actually, probably, most of them have been in the music industry for a very, very long time. For over 10 years. That's why even the idol singers who are relatively young usually start as 연습생, right? From when they're in their teens. So they've been doing this for a really long time. And then one day, they got their big break and, luck found them and they came out. But you have to be ready for that when it comes. So yeah, long story short, most people who are accomplished artists have been doing it for a really, really long time. And that's kind of why there's a lot of competition.
Can I ask you, I'll give the other two hands a chance. Can I ask you what is the next level that you want to achieve in your music?
So I've been, to be honest, I haven't been a vocalist for that long. I started off as a guitarist. Then I became a bassist because there was a time when I was really into bass. So I was like, yeah, I'll just shred that bass. And then I became a guitarist again. Then I started writing my songs. And now this is my second band as a full-time vocalist. So I want to become known for my singing voice, basically. I think that's my next move. Right now, I have my voice, and I'm working on new songs to help, highlight it. But yeah, kind of like when many of those Korean shows where you see them behind the curtain, and you immediately can tell who they are. So yeah, kind of still looking for some kind of a color that I can call mine. I think that would be the next step. And then after that, just producing a whole bunch of songs that I want to produce.
Mhm. The lifespan of pop in Korea, is that a very long lifespan, or how would you say about
It
that?
depends on the genre and depends on the musician. Like, for example, many of the idol groups that come out nowadays that I mean, you can't really tell who's who, so many members and so on like that. They it's just kind of like a star in the night sky. They're famous in their own way. They have their own fan base and they're successful. How long does that go? It really depends on the individual. There are some individuals who can grab that attention and who can kind of escape from just being a member of a group and become their own kind of star. You can probably think of many of those people. You see them quite a bit, on the different, especially the talk shows and the reality shows and like that. But it depends on the individual. On average, though, I would say that maximum would be for a pop artist, maximum would be 5 years. And after 5 years, that's when you have to start to make your own kind of music and such. That's why many people, many contracts in the music industry will go on a 7-year contract. So that's to get the most they possibly can out of that artist. And after 7 years are up, well, it depends on the artist. But about 5 years.
Yeah, that's a shooting star kind of thing, right?
It is, and there are many stars.
There's a lot of stars. Yes. Inchik, quickly your question.
Okay. And who was your biggest inspiration growing up, like to grab a guitar?
Oh, to grab a guitar. I mean, I would say that musically, my biggest inspiration was my grandfather. He was really into the harmonica. He had his own. After he came back from World War II, he was in the Navy. He had a sign business, so he had this huge workshop. He made basically all of the huge like kanpan signs for our town. But when it comes to being a guitarist, to be honest, and I'm a little bit ashamed. No, I'm not ashamed to say this, but at the same time, you're gonna find it funny. My guitar inspiration, my original guitar inspiration was Kurt Cobain of Nirvana.
Kurt Cobain, Nirvana. I see.
And if you know Kurt Cobain now, you'll realize his guitar playing was horrible. His tone was horrible. And I mean, that was basically grunge music. So, we had all those heavy metal guitarists with all the speed and like that, right? And then here comes this random person from Seattle with really long hair and with clothes that, didn't even really fit. And he's playing this half broken looking guitar really bad. And he's becoming successful at it. Well, as an aspiring musician, so someone who has really never played a guitar before, when I first had my really, really old acoustic, which was it was a rusty Segovia acoustic, right? And I'm like listening to the song Smells Like Teen Spirit. So, it goes like this. Now I'm plugging this really, really bad guitar into a guitar amp. I turn the distortion on all the way to 10 because I think this is an electric guitar. And I'm playing this really, really bad. I'm like, and like that. And I'm like, whoa, that sounds just like Nirvana, and that really, really inspired me to get into guitar. So I think the best types of songs are the ones that people can possibly play along to or aspire to, and that way, that'll inspire more people to get into that instrument.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cynthia, how about you?
It's actually Madway. I just
sorry.
wanted to ask, since you just had your guitar in your hands, if you could sing something.
Man, I've been talking all day. What would you like me to sing? Actually, geez, I can't even see.
Whatever you want, it doesn't matter.
I don't know. I'm gonna sing whatever I want. I'm in a Zoom meeting with Professor Reiners and friends. Honestly, like whenever people say, sing something, I'm just like, something, If you want to hear like me being really serious though, my current band, the name, not just Kongirobi, is called Holiday Shot. As a matter of fact, yeah, just Holiday Shot. We've most recently been producing a whole bunch of like covers and stuff because that's how YouTube works. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'll if you have a specific 신청곡 or a song, I will play that.
Can I please add on it? Right. So as you said, you are inspired by Kurt Cobain, right?
Originally, yeah.
So why don't you go with him?
Oh man, I'm in an apartment right now. It's 21st floor. I'm not gonna sing Kurt Cobain at 3:23 in the afternoon. Come on.
Good. Okay, I think we can maybe listen.
Bring your friends, want to lose and to pretend. Yeah, I'll do up to that, but then after that point, it's just gonna be noise, and people are gonna start banging on their ceilings.
Have you tried other genres as well?
Other what genres?
Genres, yeah. Like
It really depends on the genre.
you do rock and pop and so on. Any other genres?
R&B.
Rock,
R&B.
pop. I mean, obviously you're not going to count metal as another genre. It's just rock, right? Most recently, this is my latest guitar, by the way. I just went to Nagwan a couple weeks ago, and I was just out for leisurely walk, and this thing caught my attention. So I most recently just got into like acoustic style music, and yeah, just the maybe some more kind of pop-ish style of songs, I guess. But yeah,
Night Sky is beautiful. I was listening to it quite a few times, and it is on YouTube. You guys can go find it.
Yeah, that actually is
really beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I actually really like that song. We performed it for the first time like 2 weeks ago. We had an online performance. So yeah, if you want to look that up, that's fine. But it actually works it sounds like just a regular kind of quiet kind of pop song, but it also works as a rock song, I found out.
Yes, yeah, it's a very interesting song. If I can listen to that, I think the whole world can listen to that. You know my kind of music. Maurice, what about you?
I actually had an idea for a song he could sing because he asked before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm always taking ideas. All right, what you got?
Can you sing something like from The Weeknd, Beyonce, or Ariana Grande?
Beyonce,
like Blinding Lights from The Weeknd, or I mean, you said like you like acoustic, so I think Ariana Grande and Beyonce are very good with acoustic because you can like play with the voice.
I mean, I will definitely research, but to be honest, I think I've maybe listened to The Weeknd maybe once or twice. I know that they're very similar to.
You are missing something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I said you're missing something.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. I got you. I got you. I am definitely into expanding my musical horizons, I guess. But like I think they're very similar to what the 1975. Is that right?
Mm.
So yeah, I'll definitely give them a listen. At the moment though, I can't think of a single, even Beyonce song that would possibly sound okay. But I I'm just holding a guitar right now, and I'm just totally just shooting down all of your requests, and I feel really bad about it. So I'm gonna see what do I possibly have? Yeah.
The sound is not very good. I don't think you can hear that.
Somebody's hiding, it's crowding my eyes, but somebody's cold one giving me chill. Sound was close to my eyes. Oh yeah. Feels good.
Thank you.
That's an old grunge song actually by Weezer.
Thank you. I have a question as well. How do you do your marketing? And what kind of avenues are you using for marketing and publicity?
All right. So some more the business aspect. So really actually depended on the band. Actually, like my previous band, we actually did some crowdfunding, and I think we got like $30,000 from that. But that actually went all to like albums and T-shirts and all that stuff. Nowadays we're kind of we're more in the preparation process because of the pandemic. So we're more in the writing songs, and then our main goal right now is to release at least one song a month, and then eventually we'll end up with 12 or 13 songs, and that'll be an album. And hopefully by the time that album comes out, we're no longer gonna really have this pandemic. Not that it's gonna take that long, but hopefully the pandemic's not gonna take long. And then after that point we'll start performing. Honestly, when you start doing shows, and when you start actually performing in front of people, that number one immediately just increases like your presence and everything immediately. And number two, the performances themselves are actually money wise the main thing, because that's what sells all of your goods and products and like that. So I think at the moment right now it's more preparation, testing the waters, and also kind of trying new experiments. So like for example, just a couple days ago I finished taking the video for another cover song that we were doing. Now we're trying a new idea here. Not sure if it's going to be successful or not, but we're trying it, which is we're covering old Korean pop songs, like super old songs.
Okay.
But they're all being translated into English, so with English lyrics. Main goal being make the old Korean songs sound like old American pop songs, or possibly modern ones. So the most recent one is by a band called the Sand Pebbles. Eventually became like, I think, Sanullim. And it's a song that some Koreans might know called Na Ottoke. If you translate it, it's what should I do? So basically, the original song, what I think it was like maybe in the key of B. Yeah. Na Ottoke, 그대가 날. It's kind of like that, right? So it sounds very Korean, but then we change it. So it'd be like, what should I do if you just go, leave me alone? Kind of like that. And then we're trying to see if maybe there's a market for that.
It's very interesting. Mary, do you still have a question?
No, I don't.
Okay, your hand was up. Tapa, you have a question? More?
Yeah, yes,
Just-
Professor. So,
okay.
I would like to ask that if Nicholas got a chance, so which industry would you choose? Will you go to American industry more or the Korean one?
So in this hypothetical situation, I guess, by chance, do you mean like if I had the chance to become super successful in the United States, would I choose it? Is that the question?
Yeah.
That's something that I'd really have to consider. Right now, my roots are kind of really set in Korea, not just musically, but also, socially, and also, when it comes to teaching as well. But, I mean, if I guess big name company decided that they want to give me a shot and they offered a multi-million-dollar contract, I might consider. Yeah.
Nick, did you have any story of something embarrassing or something funny that happened with you on stage?
Yes, so many.
Can you share that with us?
Where do I start? Oh man. A lot of different things that not only happened to me, but also happened to the people around me. From my end, I remember this was back in 2011. I was playing at the Jisan Rock Festival at the time. So at the time, Korea had a bunch of rock festivals. They had what's called Pennaport, Jisan Rock Festival, Ansan Rock Festival. So we were actually doing the same stage as like some of the invited musicians. I even played on the same stage as Muse. I was playing bass guitar at the time. Now, our band was set to go up on stage at around 11:30 p.m. Okay, that's pretty late. So the band that was right before us, a band called Pia, they had just finished, and this the singer in the band, his name is is Johan, and my Korean name is Johan too. That's my middle name in America. So in English. So he comes on stage and he knows me and he's like, "Oh, Johan, come on over here." And so I'm like, "Oh yeah, what's up?" And he's like, immediately the band members take out these bottles of soju, and I'm like, "Oh no, I gotta perform." And Johan's like, "Oh no, just one shot, just one shot." Well, eventually that became like 5 or 6 shots, and then I went up on stage. I had a really great time on stage. It was fantastic. But a couple days later, someone had uploaded a video of us playing. And I realized bass players are rhythm players. They should never drink before a show. My rhythm was all over the place. I was playing the bass like a guitar. A guitar, you can go out of rhythm. It's okay because you got the drums and the bass and they're strong, right? But no, not as the bass. And then there was another time, actually very similar time. There was a festival called the Green Plugged Festival. It was kind of a raising environmental awareness festival that happens almost every year, except for last year, I think. And it was early summertime. There were a bunch of people at the Haneulgongwon in Seoul. It's a huge park, and it's a really hot day. Well, I noticed most of the people in front of me didn't have any drinks, water-wise. So they seemed very dehydrated. And as you know, the artist, the management, puts all the drinks in front of us. Well, I had this bottle of unopened samdasu. So with the rectangular shape, right? And I just thought, it'd be cool if I just threw the samdasu towards the audience so that someone can catch it and then they could have a nice drink, okay, on the house. I didn't realize that most artists, because at the time I was kind of still new to things, that you had to actually open the bottle first and then toss it. I did not open the bottle. I just tossed it. I was like a football player. I was like, bam, like that, right? And a few days later, I didn't know what happened, but a few days later, somebody on their, I think, Naver blog uploaded a post, said, 나 오늘, that was my old band name was 바닐라 유니티. 나 오늘 바닐라 유니티 저희 그 닉이 던진 삼다수에 맞았다. And they had like a photo of like their, like right over, like, the bone right here, right? The part of the rib cage, and it was bruised. I had totally just hit that person right in the rib cage. And I was very close to writing an apology as a response, but I was like, no, that would just look really horrible. So but I really felt bad about that person. And ever since then, Whenever I toss something, it's almost empty. I'm just like that, and then toss it. That's what I realized way later. Aside from that, just a whole bunch of other things. Like I had a band member who was really into Slash, right? So he had that top hat relate kind of thing. He had hair that came all the way down to here, right? And one of the things that Slash does, I don't think he does it nowadays because it can be seen as kind of not necessarily good, or visually anyway, would be, he'd be smoking on stage, and sometimes he'd put the cigarette on the guitar headstock and then play it like that, right? Well, this guy, he really wanted to play like Slash. So here he is, with a half-lit cigarette. And what happened was suddenly I'm just playing my guitar and I hear something on the side, someone's shouting. I look over there, this guy's hair is half on fire.
Oh my.
He put so much spray and wax on his head that that smoke immediately went up and just started lighting his hair on fire.
Oh,
well, he was okay, but he did end up getting a different haircut.
That must be something. Right, our time's running out. So I think we might just end here. Nick, I want to say thank you so much for coming.
No problem. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, this is one of the advantages of Zoom, right?
It is, definitely.
Yeah, it shortened the distance and so on. And it was great hearing of your career. And yeah, they would like to know your YouTube channel.
Okay.
And you just put it in the chat box. And
yeah,
then
all right, give me
right, just tell us in the chat box. And I'm sure you're going to have a few subscriptions.
Yeah, actually, this new band that I'm currently working on, we haven't really had a YouTube channel really ever. So we made it not that long ago. So it's kind of barren at the moment, but if you wanted to take a look, definitely I'll actually, I'm just gonna link to the one song right here first, and then you can subscribe to the YouTube channel too if you want.
Okay, that would be fantastic. Right,
yeah.
Thank you. So we got that.
Thank you for your interest.
Yeah, yeah, and our class also say thank you. Nick, thank you so much. And we wish you all the success for your career, both.
I really appreciate it.
And we really wish with you that Corona and all the drama will be gone very, very soon.
Well, I mean, it's
that
really for
and rock and I won't rock. You don't want to see that, but I will be.
I don't know. I think you'd look good in like a leather jacket, with the. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak and to interact with you guys. It's always a pleasure interacting with people who are really into things such as the music industry, guitars and so on. So yeah, anytime.
Thank you. I just want to tell you this, my first embarrassing moment. I've done my first opera, and during the opera, I had to do a solo with an orchestra, and it was very solemn. And I mean, the place was packed, and I started the third above the orchestra.
Oh no!
It was luckily I got down, but I was absolutely embarrassed. I was growing red.
Well, you know what? The good thing about that is most people are not going to remember it except for you.
I remember that very, very clearly, and that was 30 plus years ago.
Well, as long as that prevented future accidents from happening, and at a purpose. But yeah, definitely.
It did, yeah. Hopefully.
Well, now that you mention it, yeah, when I was like 10, I think I've been practicing this song called "Stairway to Heaven." It's the song by Led Zeppelin, like that, right? And it's a 7-minute long song, and this was the first song I ever covered. And on the acoustic guitar, like it was in front of, I think, like 100 parents of the students that I was studying with. And so, it's kind of sounds like this. So I've just been practicing that, but I didn't practice my vocals. So I was so embarrassed. For 7 minutes, it was torture. 7 minutes. I was like looking at the guitar like this. I'm just like, there's a lady who's sure, and like that, right? And wow, that must have just been horrible for the parents watching. But yeah,
it has been hell for you singing.
Only we do.
Thank you so much, Nick, and we wish you all the best. Thank you.
Absolutely. And yeah, you guys, you have a really great class. I think everybody, just the fact that you guys are constantly, asking questions, very interested in stuff, means that this is an incredibly good class. So, and Professor Reiners is one of the best professors I've ever known. Very humble, down to earth, while at the same time being a very accomplished person himself. So you guys are, you guys have a fantastic professor. In any case, hope you guys have a great semester together, and I look forward to someday seeing you guys again. By the way, Inchik, if you ever want to talk about guitars and stuff, that's my email right there. You can just send me, if you're looking into any kind of new guitar like that, just ask me and I'll give you my best advice possible.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
So I'll talk to you through email. Thank you so much.
Guys, thank you so much. And class, thank you so much. It's time to go. So I'll see you next week sometime. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Professor?
Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry, when is our midterm?
Midterm week 8.
Okay, is it multiple choice?
Yeah, it's on multiple choice.
All of them?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Obi. Good. Bye-bye, guys.